welcome you watching your favorite long-form story this weekend. We're getting you three in-depth stories where we have gone beyond to get you what's the full picture. Let's take you through the details of each of these stories. Up first, in the domain of world politics, alliances are now being tested. Rivalries are just heating up, and behind every handshake lies a battle for leverage, from Washington to Beijing, Moscow to New Delhi. It's high-stake negotiations which are redefining trade, diplomacy, and security. In fact, we'll break down what these power moves mean for the world order. Next would be in Bihar. What began as a routine cleanup of India's voter rolls has now spiraled into a full-blown political storm. With 64 lakh names flagged, the opposition is crying voter suppression and fraud, while the government stands firm on national security. We'll unpack the numbers, the protests, and what this political showdown means for the future of Indian democracy. And then we take you to the front lines of Operation Sindoor, India's bold, calibrated strike deep inside Pakistan in response to the brutal Pahalgam massacre. With 9 terrorist camps destroyed and Pakistan's key forward base at Rahim Yar Khan reduced to rubble, India's message is loud and clear. We'll bring you exclusive visuals, on-ground intelligence. Across the world, the balance of power is shifting, and that too very fast. Trade tensions are rising, tariffs are hitting economies, and alliances are being tested at every turn. From Washington to Moscow, from Beijing to New Delhi, leaders are negotiating, in fact, recalculating and trying to protect their national interests. Handshakes and summits may look simple, but behind them lie hours of strategy, pressure, and trust on the line. In Alaska, a recent summit between President Trump and President Putin drew global attention. Every word and gesture scrutinized, every decision potentially reshaping trade, security, and alliances. Meanwhile, India is navigating its own challenges, balancing trade pressures from the United States of America while maintaining strategic ties across Asia. Across Europe, policymakers are watching closely, aware that the summit's outcomes could shift the balance of security of the region. Tonight, we take you inside the high-stake negotiations, the numbers, the strategies, and the global stakes that hang on every handshake. Here's the entire story.
Across continents, trade wars and alliances are reshaping global power. Trade wars, tariffs, and sudden alliances are rewriting old equations. And now, a summit in Alaska has the world asking, could this handshake change the map of global security? New tariffs are testing old partnerships, and at the center of recent tensions is India. New US tariffs are testing India's economic resilience. From farmers to exporters, national interests are under scrutiny.
मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं। मेरे देश के किसानों के लिए, मेरे देश के मछुआरों के लिए, मेरे देश के पशुपालकों के लिए आज भारत तैयार है।
For Washington, the calculus is simple: America first. But India, a strategic partner, sees the chessboard differently.
Trade situation is a deficit. We had a tremendous deficit. So, as you know, Prime Minister Modi is a friend of mine, but they don't do very much business in terms of business with us. They sell a lot to us, but we don't buy from them. You know why? Because the tariff is so high. They have one of the highest tariffs in the world. Now they're willing to cut it very substantially, but we'll see what happens. We're talking to India now. We'll see what happens. It doesn't matter too much whether we have a deal or whether we charge them a certain tariff, but you'll know at the end of this week.
New Delhi is taking stock. Ministries and stakeholders are assessing the tariffs' impact and preparing measures to safeguard national interests.
The implications of the recent development are being examined by the government. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry is engaged with all stakeholders, including exporters and industry, for taking feedback of their assessment of the situation. The government attaches the utmost importance to protecting and promoting the welfare of our farmers, workers, entrepreneurs, exporters, MSMEs, and all sections of industry. We will take all necessary steps to secure and advance our national interests.
Across the world, trade tensions are rising. Washington frames its economic strategy as a game of strength and leverage.
No, not at all. I'm not concerned at all. They can do what they want. None of them are doing very well. And what we're doing in terms of economics, we're blowing everyone away, including China. We're doing better than any other country in the world right now. Brazil has been a horrible trading partner in terms of tariffs. As you know, they charge us tremendous tariffs, far, far more than we were charging them. We weren't charging anything, essentially.
Across the Pacific, tensions simmer between the United States and China, the two economic giants. Their relationship, complex and unpredictable, will shape the next moves in global trade, and India is watching closely.
President Trump has an excellent relationship with Party Chair Xi, so that's very helpful. We'll be meeting with the counterparts again within the next 2 or 3 months, and we'll go from there.
Even as tariffs loom, India and China are cautiously reopening channels. Small steps like easing travel signal that cooperation remains possible even amid global tension.
India said it will resume issuing tourist visas to Chinese citizens from July 24th of this year, the first time in 5 years. What is the Foreign Ministry's comment on this move?
我们注意到这一积极举措，推动人员往来便利化，符合各方共同利益。中方愿同印方保持沟通与协商，不断提升两国人员往来便利化水平。
While India navigates trade pressures, Washington and Moscow convene in Alaska. Every word, every gesture carries weight for Europe, Ukraine, and beyond. A handshake on the tarmac signals the start, but beneath the optics, hours of negotiations will test trust and strategy.
Mr. Putin, will you agree to a ceasefire? Mr. Putin, will you commit to not killing any more civilians?
Thank you, press. Let's go. Come on, guys. Thank you, press. Let's go.
Mr. President.
Thank you, press. Let's go.
President Putin, why should President Trump trust your word now? After
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
We've got to
Thank
go.
you, press.
Thank you, press.
2.5 hours of closed-door discussions. Officials describe progress, but in diplomacy, the real story is often what remains unresolved.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway.
U.S.-Russia summit in Alaska has definitely been productive. U.S. side has received Russian side very well. There were lots of issues that we discussed, and many we agreed. Some of them are to be agreed. And definitely it's very important that President Trump outlined a significant economic potential of cooperation between US and Russia, and will continue building US-Russia relations going forward, despite lots of the resistance to this, but will continue strengthening US-Russia ties.
И вот сегодня мы слышим, когда президент Трамп говорит, что если бы я был президентом, то войны бы не было. Я думаю, что так бы на самом деле и случилось. Я подтверждаю это, потому что в целом у нас с президентом Трампом наладился очень хороший деловой и доверительный контакт, и у меня есть все основания полагать, что, двигаясь по этому пути, мы можем дойти и чем быстрее, тем лучше, до завершения конфликта на Украине. Благодарю вас за внимание.
Across Europe, policymakers watch nervously. The summit's outcome could shift the balance of security in the region.
Зі Сполученими Штатами Америки, з європейцями, що дійсно може спрацювати, усім потрібне чесне закінчення війни. Україна готова працювати максимально продуктивно, щоб завершити війну.
As leaders emerge, the handshakes and smiles are more than ceremony. They are signals of intent, careful calibrations in a high-stakes geopolitical game.
Joining us tonight on the long-form story is national security analyst Siddhant Kishore. Siddhant, thank you very much for speaking to Republic TV. Let me straight away begin by asking you, how is Washington really viewing this, keeping in mind that there are mixed signals really coming in, a deal that hasn't been done, a ceasefire that hasn't happened? As far as the future is concerned, there is absolute uncertainty. European leaders are extremely pessimistic. Where does this basically place us?
Thank you, Shravan, for having me. Absolutely. The picture that you have drawn is correct, absolutely correct. And there are fair reasons to think that this meeting has not exactly gone as it was planned. Both sides have claimed that they have made extremely good amount of progress, but I would say that this progress is asymmetrical. This progress has definitely inclined more towards in the favor of Russian President Vladimir Putin than it has given the political benefit that Donald Trump was expecting to see. Absolutely, the progress remains unclear because either sides have not discussed anything related to the ceasefire. President Putin, throughout his press conference, as you must have seen, has maintained his maximalist war demands that Russia and Ukraine are brotherly state. He has continued to speak of the rhetoric, maintaining that from the time of USSR, Ukraine has been a state of Russian motherland, and that needs to be reunited. So I do not see any sentiment coming from the Russian side of ceding to the demands of Ukrainians or the European leaders. Perhaps President Vladimir Putin has also reinstated that the primary reason why the war was started was because of NATO's eastward expansion. So none of the discussions have come forward in these direction. There has been absolutely no progress, no strong progress. Another indicator that has also emerged is that both presidents were supposed to have a one-on-one discussion. Although that did not happen, they ended up having 3:3 discussion with US president being supported by his envoy, Steve Witkoff, and the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And lastly, Trump has concluded that they have made some progress. However, there is no direction. Is it going to go towards a ceasefire? So we are all watching with extreme uncertainty. European leaders are absolutely not happy, and definitely Ukraine is missing out a lot on this conversation right now as we speak.
And this brings us to the other important aspect, that's the tariff war. Interestingly, there is an admission that has been made. The bilateral trade between Russia and the United States of America has only increased. If that's the case, then on what basis has President Trump imposed tariff on countries like India to begin with? If you yourself are doing trade with Russia, then why do you have an issue with any other country for that matter?
Well, if we want to understand Donald Trump's relations and reach out to different countries, we must reduce that to the binaries of personal transaction relationship. It doesn't matter how the bilateral relation or the trade benefits of between two countries are, but what exactly matters is how much of political leverage can President Trump buy from this kind of relationship. If you look at the statistics, Shravan, India and United States have approximately 190 to 200 billion dollar of annual trade, in which India enjoys a 40 billion approximately trade surplus. Okay, and other than that, they have signed so many strategic initiatives, starting from exchange on semiconductor, rocket engines, jet engines, and so many other things. So there is a clear natural and strategic alliance between both countries. However, there is definitely a strong double standard here, the way in which President Trump is treating his Indian counterpart. I think there are two primary reasons why Donald Trump is behaving the way he is, particularly number one being that India has constantly and on several occasions has completely rejected Donald Trump's claim that he has offered mediation, or he has the person who has actually offered mediation to do the ceasefire post Operation Sindoor. And several occasions, India has disputed that. Number two, Donald Trump also claimed that he is a prospect, he is a potential candidate for Nobel Peace Prize, and the rhetoric coming from India completely also denies that. And if I could put a bonus point forward, is also we need to understand that Donald Trump offered during the trade negotiations with India. Donald Trump offered certain cessations to India, which compromised the farmers of India, the fishermen of India. Those two are actually some of the primary contributors to the Indian economy. And India cannot make a trade deal or cut a deal short by compromising these primary economy assets. So I think this relationship, the trade deals have not given enough political advantage to Donald Trump, and that is the reason why he is behaving as he is. So on the other hand, he is also making such deals with Pakistan. They have made deals on cryptocurrency reserve, on developing cryptocurrency reserve. They have made a contract on oil reserves. There is absolutely no clarity if Pakistan actually has untapped hydrocarbons under its onshore or offshore. It's absolutely unclear. So definitely Pakistan has promised more than it can deliver, while India knows its strength, India knows its capability, and India is not willing to give or sacrifice their sovereignty just to make benefit out of the relationship with US. This is a very important relationship, particularly for India, but that does not come at the cost of our own sovereignty or integrity.
Well, thank you very much, Siddhant, for joining us on this broadcast and putting this into perspective. In fact, that's the state of play tonight. From Alaska to Asia, the world's largest leaders and the leaders who have essentially been smiling for the cameras, but behind those handshakes, the hard bargains, tough compromises, and also national interests that are basically at stake. For India, the tariff battle is only just beginning. For the US and Russia and Alaska was a test of trust, with Europe essentially watching every move that has been made. And for China, the long game essentially continues. The big question now, are we watching a new balance of power being written in real time, or are these just snapshots in an endless chess match? The answers will shape trade, security, and alliances in the months ahead. And we'll be tracking this very closely. Every move would be tracked. Tonight, we turn to Bihar, where what started as a routine cleanup of voter rolls has exploded into a full-blown political storm. The Election Commission's Special Intensive Revision, or the SIR, aimed to remove duplicates, ghost voters, and entries of those who have moved or passed away. A total of 64 lakh names. But the opposition quickly turned it into a heated battle, with protests outside Parliament, chaos in the Bihar Assembly, and threats of election boycotts. In fact, Rahul Gandhi has now dragged Karnataka into the debate, alleging voter fraud. Meanwhile, opposition leaders continue to march and shout, while the government maintains that this is about cleaning the rolls and safeguarding national security. Tonight, we bring you the full story, the numbers, the protests, and what this means for the future of Indian democracy.
चुनाव आयोग हिसाब दो।
एसआईआर पे चर्चा होना चाहिए, इसीलिए एसआईआर पे चर्चा होना चाहिए।
वो नंबर आप दोनों में देख सकते हैं, 20 और 25 में एक ही है, किंतु
तेजस्वी यादव जी ने एक नया नंबर अपने ही वोटर कार्ड का दिखाया।
As Bihar gears up for polls, the Election Commission has wrapped up its Special Intensive Revision or the SIR. A massive exercise to weed out duplicates, remove ghost voters and deliver a cleaner, sharper electoral roll. The exercise, meant to ensure a fair poll by removing duplicate entries, names of the deceased and those who have shifted out, has now snowballed into a full-blown political meltdown.
कई लाख वोटरों का अगर नाम काट दोगे तो ये चलने वाला नहीं है। हम लोग चुप बैठने वाले नहीं हैं।
मैं यहाँ आया उसके पहले पूरे अखबार भरे पड़े हैं कि SIR होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए। अब मैं तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी का कार्यकर्ता हूँ, मंच पर सारे NDA के लोग हैं, मगर मैं तो जनता को पूछना चाहता हूं, भैया घुसपैठिए को मतदाता सूची से निकालना चाहिए या नहीं निकालना चाहिए? अरे जोर से बोलो, निकालना चाहिए या नहीं निकालना चाहिए? चुनाव आयोग ने SIR करना चाहिए या नहीं करना चाहिए? अरे मुझे बताए लालू प्रसाद जी, किसको बचाना चाहते हो?
RJD's Tejasvi Yadav even went as far as threatening an election boycott.
तो जब बेईमानी करना है तो हम लोग इस पे विचार कर सकते हैं बॉयकॉट करने का। दूसरे पार्टियों से भी आप बात कीजिएगा। हम सब दल के लोगों से बात करेंगे। महागठबंधन चुनाव का क्या मतलब रहेगा जब लोकतंत्र में जनता ही वोट नहीं देगी? चंडीगढ़ जैसा तुम लोग काम करोगे तो क्या मतलब रह जाएगा? तो हम लोग इस पे गंभीर होकर के चुनाव बहिष्कार पर चर्चा हम लोग कर सकते हैं। ये विकल्प हमारे पास खुला है।
The chaos did not stop there. In the Bihar Assembly, opposition MLAs went on a rampage, disrupting proceedings, climbing onto tables in the well and even lifting chairs. The SIR, as touted by the government, is not just about deleting duplicate voters, but is also about removing the infiltrators who should not be there on the list.
षड्यंत्र के तहत, सोची समझी साजिश के तहत देश की डेमोग्राफी को बदला जा रहा है। एक नए संकट के बीज बोए जा रहे हैं और ये घुसपैठिए मेरे देश के नौजवानों की रोजी रोटी छीन रहे हैं। जब डेमोग्राफी परिवर्तन होता है, सीमावर्ती क्षेत्रों में डेमोग्राफी में परिवर्तन होता है, तब राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा के लिए संकट पैदा होता है। देश की एकता, अखंडता और प्रगति के लिए ये संकट पैदा, सामाजिक तनाव के बीज बो देता है। और कोई देश अपना देश घुसपैठियों के हवाले नहीं कर सकता है। दुनिया का कोई देश नहीं कर सकता है, तो हम भारत को कैसे कर सकते हैं?
The concern is clear in Seemanchal, where there are more Aadhaar cards than people. Districts of Bihar, such as Kishanganj, have 105% of the population with Aadhaar. Araria and Katihar at around 102% and Purnia at 101%, all higher than Bihar's average of 94%. In this border region near Bengal and Nepal, the numbers raise serious questions. Meanwhile, the Election Commission's Special Intensive Revision covered 99.8% of Bihar's electorate. The drive found 22 lakh deceased voters, 7 lakh duplicate entries and nearly 35 lakh who had migrated or were untraceable. In all, around 64 lakh names are set to be struck off the rolls. Adding to this, Supreme Court has also directed the EC to publish the name of 64 lakhs voters which were deleted. And in the middle of the uproar, Rahul Gandhi jumped straight into the chorus, this time throwing fresh allegations of voter fraud in Karnataka. Citing a 6-month Congress probe in Bengaluru's Mahadevpura segment, he claimed there were false additions to the voters list.
कर्नाटक में जो हमने डेटा निकाला है वो एक क्राइम का एविडेंस है। 6 महीने लगे हमें उस डेटा को निकालने के लिए। इतना बड़ा कागजों की फाइल थी। एक फोटो को लाखों फोटो के सामने कंपेयर किया है, हर एक नाम को चेक किया है और हम मानते हैं कि हिंदुस्तान का पूरा जो डेटा है, इलेक्शन का डेटा है, वो एविडेंस है।
The EC was quick to respond, asking Rahul Gandhi to put his allegations under oath, which Rahul Gandhi refused.
मुझसे कहता है कि मुझे ओथ लेना है। मैंने पार्लियामेंट के सामने, पार्लियामेंट के अंदर ओथ लिया है, इस संविधान के सामने ओथ लिया है, इस पर हाथ डाल के वोट लिया है, इस पे हाथ डालकर ओथ लिया है।
Opposition also dragged the issue in Lok Sabha, shouting slogans, stalling proceedings and eventually drawing a sharp rebuke from Speaker Om Birla.
देश की जनता आपको देख रही है कि आप नियोजित तरीके से रोज नारेबाजी करते हैं, तख्तियां लहराते हैं, सरकारी संपत्तियों पर नुकसान पहुंचाने का प्रयास करते हैं। ये उचित नहीं है और ये आपकी संसदों की व्यवस्थाओं के लिए भी उचित नहीं है। मुझे लगता है कि आप नियोजित तरीके से ही सदन को बाधित करना चाहते हैं।
In its latest move, the opposition has resorted to nitpicking trivial clerical errors. Due to a minor error, Bihar's Minta Devi's birth year was noted as 1900 instead of her actual birth year of 1990. Priyanka Gandhi turned this into a gimmick and was seen protesting in a t-shirt featuring Minta Devi's picture. However, Minta Devi herself spoke and blasted Gandhi's allegation about using her name for political gains.
प्रियंका गांधी या राहुल गांधी मेरे कौन होते हैं? उनको अधिकार किसने दिया कि मेरे नाम का टी-शर्ट, मेरे तस्वीर का फोटो लगाकर वो टी-शर्ट पहने? क्यों? कारण क्या है? वो कौन होते हैं? उनको अधिकार दिया किसने?
While the Lok Sabha passed the important taxation laws, the opposition took to the streets, marching from Parliament to the EC office, protesting the SIR exercise in Bihar and other issues, even as key legislation was cleared.
हजार चुनाव आयोग को दिए हैं। उम्मीद है कि उन पर कार्रवाई करेंगे जो दोषी अधिकारी हैं, जिनकी वजह से गलत वोट बने, डिलीट वोट हुए।
Election Commission has completely failed. It has become BJP's department. Gyaneshwar Singh and Mr. Rajiv Kumar has completely finished the Election Commission's integrity.
The leaders were eventually detained by the Delhi police.
One man, one vote की लड़ाई है, इसीलिए हमें साफ प्योर वोटर लिस्ट चाहिए।
With over 64 lakh names struck off Bihar alone, questions are now emerging. Could SIR evolve from a state-level cleanup into a nationwide effort to ensure voter list integrity?
And that's where the story stands tonight. What began as a simple cleanup of Bihar's electoral rolls has now essentially snowballed into a street battle, a parliament standoff, and even a family brand protest. From Rahul Gandhi's Karnataka conspiracy theory to Priyanka Gandhi's t-shirt theatrics, the opposition has twisted a routine voter roll cleanup. And there is full drama over this. But over 64 lakh names struck off, and the Supreme Court essentially demanding transparency. The Election Commission insists that this is only the first step. The real question now is, does Bihar mark the beginning of a nationwide purge of India's electoral rolls? And if it does, can the political system really handle the tremors it will set off? The answers are still unfolding. We're now cutting straight to more details that we're essentially getting in as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. India's decisive strike deep inside Pakistan. Now, on the night of 7th of May, the Indian Air Force launched a calibrated counter-attack in response to the Pahalgam massacre. By dawn, 9 terrorist camps had been reduced to rubble. The most telling destruction was at Rahim Yar Khan, Pakistan's forward airbase, drone station and fighter launch pad. India hit it hard, and the evidence is now clear. Craters on the runway, collapsed hangars and damage to the adjoining civilian terminal. The scale of destruction across Pakistan is striking, leaving behind unmistakable evidence of India's precision and capability. Yet, according to Prime Minister Modi, this is just the opening act. Operation Sindoor is far from over. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last 7 days, Republic TV's investigation team went through multiple footages that we've got from our sources. And it basically indicates this, that Pakistan hasn't been able to reconstruct most of those places which have been struck by India. And that is the reason why you have the Pakistanis now going to United States of America with a begging bowl. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to present before you are details of not just Operation Sindoor, but also the impact that it has had.
बाल बच्चों के सामने पिता को गोली मार दी। आज भी वो तस्वीरें देखते हैं तो खून खौल जाता है। 22 तारीख को उन्होंने जो खेल खेला था, थोड़ा बताइए हुआ। 6 तारीख रात को 22 मिनट में हमने उनको मिट्टी में मिला दिया। अगर पाकिस्तान ने फिर से सैन्य दुस्साहस दिखाया तो हम उसका मुंह तोड़ जवाब देंगे। भारत माता की, भारत माता की, वंदे वंदे। हमारे वीर जाबाज सैनिकों ने दुश्मनों को उनकी कल्पना से परे सजा दी है। मेरे प्यारे देशवासी, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर उसी आक्रोश की अभिव्यक्ति है। 22 तारीख के बाद हमने हमारे सेना को खुली छूट दे दी। रणनीति वो तय करे, लक्ष्य वो तय करे, समय भी वो चुने, और हमारी सेना ने वो करके दिखाया जो कई दशकों तक कभी हुआ नहीं था।
In the dead of the night, on the 7th of May 2025, the Indian Air Force launched Operation Sindoor, a calibrated counter-attack to avenge the Pahalgam massacre. Training camps of Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed were blown to rubble. By dawn, 9 terrorist sites had been hit. Nowhere is the destruction more vivid than Rahim Yar Khan in southern Punjab. Located some 230 kilometers inside Pakistan near the Rajasthan border.
पाकिस्तान के एयरबेस एसेट्स को भारी नुकसान हुआ और आज तक उनके कई एयरबेस आईसीयू में पड़े हैं।
The attached civilian airport terminal, the Sheikh Zayed International Airport, was also hit. Pakistan's media noted structural damage to the terminal building and even a VIP lounge used by visiting dignitaries. But India's response did not stop at terror camps. Pakistan's misadventures furthered India's response. The Air Force went on to target Pakistan's military assets with surgical strikes. Craters on runways and destroyed hangars are visible at key airfields: Sargodha, Noor Khan, Chaklala, Dholari, Jacobabad, Sukur, and Rahim Yar Khan. These images were published by Indian intelligence to prove the impact. 2 months after Operation Sindoor, new satellite images from Google Earth made headlines and raised questions about whether India had Pakistan's secret nuclear base, the Kirana Hills. India and Pakistan reached a ceasefire agreement on the 10th of May, and US President Donald Trump was quick to claim the credit. However, the claim was categorically denied by the Indian government.
जब इतना कड़ा प्रहार हुआ, पाकिस्तान ने कभी सोचा तक नहीं था, तब जाकर के पाकिस्तान ने फोन करके डीजीएमओ के सामने फोन करके गुहार लगाई, बस करो।
I want to make 3 things clear. One, there was no leader, nobody anywhere in the world who asked India to stop its operations. This is something the Prime Minister also said. Number 2, there was no linkage with trade. No, I'll tell you. So there is no linkage of trade. There was no linkage of trade in any of those conversations, and there was no cause between Prime Minister and President Trump.
बहुत मारा, अब ज्यादा मार झेलने की ताकत नहीं है। प्लीज हमला रोक दो। ये पाकिस्तान के डीजीएमओ का फोन था, और भारत ने तो पहले दिन ही कह दिया था, 7 तारीख सुबह की प्रेस देख लीजिए, कि हमने हमारा लक्ष्य पूरा कर दिया है, अगर आप कुछ करोगे तो महंगा पड़ेगा।
The most concrete details came from India's Air Chief Marshal AP Singh. In a much publicized briefing in Bengaluru, Air Chief Marshal finally confirmed the full extent of the hits.
It was a nicely planned out effort, and the date was decided. It was the 6th and 7th night, date and time, and it was decided based on weather, based on what pattern we were seeing across the border of their movements and their actions. And we decided that time, and we decided that it'll be in one go we will address all 9 targets. And like I said, Air Force was targeting these to the border, so it was not that we could do something with small drones or weapons of small caliber. They were all nicely hardened structures. So we decided to go with long-range weapons.
Across Pakistan, the toll of these strikes became unmistakable. Operation Sindoor has left a stark visual legacy for Pakistan to see, to remember, and to regret.
पाकिस्तान की नींद अभी भी उड़ी हुई है। पाकिस्तान में हुई तबाही इतनी बड़ी है कि रोज नए नए खुलासे हो रहे हैं, नई नई जानकारियां आ रही हैं।
However, what looked like the end of war was only phase 1.
मैं फिर से लोकतंत्र के इस मंदिर में दोहराना चाहता हूं, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर जारी है। पाकिस्तान ने दुस्साहस की अगर कल्पना की तो उसे करारा जवाब दिया जाएगा।
Military aviation historian Tom Cooper joins us on this broadcast. Tom, thank you very much for speaking on the long-form story tonight. Let me straight away begin by asking you that you've been able to go through the open intelligence over the last few weeks. I believe by now you may have been able to make some sort of an assessment of the damage that has been inflicted upon Pakistan. Pakistan says that they have not lost a single aircraft. They say that they have not lost any of their men. But the reality seems to be different. On 14th of August, they have identified the number of soldiers that they have lost after the Operation Sindoor was carried out by the Indian Armed Forces. What's your assessment like? Tom, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Let me check. Okay. Excuse me. Thank you very much for inviting me. Nice to be with you this evening. As for my assessment, I'm monitoring also what the Pakistani media and experts doing, and it's obvious that they are actually indulging in doing anything else but studying what was going on during this war, which means that something went massively wrong on their side. When you now ask me specifically about what went wrong with the Pakistani Air Force, well, it was hit in a fashion it didn't expect, and several things went wrong in regards of its integrated air defense system. This more or less fell apart, and there were problems with defending such sites, like, for example, this Rahim Khan airport outside of Rahim Yar Khan, the town in Punjab. So now they are more busy with trying to hide what has happened over there and trying to distract with any other topics, but what went wrong in this war.
Tom, with regards to the immediate assessment that has been done by the Pakistani, it seems NOTAMs have been issued multiple times as far as Rahim Yar Khan is concerned. Why is it that even now the focus is not on the losses that they've had, but rather the peddling, the lies that they have essentially peddled all this while?
Because of all the losses, because they've lost the war. It's just like about 71, you have, or 65 war between India and Pakistan. There are lots of photographs, there are lots of books, there are lots of reports about the war of 1965, because Pakistan was generally assessed as more successful than India. And then in 71, Pakistan suffered a crushing defeat. And then there are next to no photographs, next to no books. And the Pakistani Air Force wouldn't even let own historians check the files about that war, or at least ever since that war, about the time since December 1971. So they are hiding unpleasant truths from the public, foremost in Pakistan, and then from the worldwide public. And that is the case in this. This is the same is valid with this war as well. That means when there are situations like, for example, Gujranwala radar site was heavily hit and demolished by Indian airstrikes, then they are quiet about this. They are not showing anything. And even the security system in Pakistan is immediately cordoning off the entire area, confiscating smartphones, prohibiting people from taking videos or photographs of the site that was hit. Everybody is made quiet, and the truth about what happened to them is hidden as far as possible. If they show anything at all, then hits or damage on civilian objects, and the Indians are targeting only civilian facilities. Well, if the Indians are targeting only civilian facilities, then the Pakistanis would have to explain, or should explain, how comes their own Director General of Armed Services has made a call to New Delhi on the morning of 10th of May and sounded a ceasefire. So But precisely now in the case you have asked me about this Sheikh Zayed airport outside of Rahim Yar Khan. This is actually a civilian facilities and not used for commercial, not even for commercial purposes since 2023. So something was going on over there. What is known is that on the northern side of that facility there were 4 so-called hardened aircraft shelters. They seem not to have been targeted by Indian missiles, but the runway was hit, perhaps some other parts of the facility. Enough damage was caused to cause lengthy repairs, firstly, and secondly, Pakistan cannot now let traffic resume from that airport. Otherwise, it could happen that somebody takes a photograph or a video with his smart or her smartphone, whether outside of some aircraft that is passing by or whatever, under whatever other circumstances, and then there would be trouble because this would show that Pakistan was hit. So they are trying to hide this as well, and that's why they have extended this closing of the airport in question.
Tom, I'm also curious to know this, that this has been speculated that while carrying out Operation Sindoor in Pakistan, India seems to have also hurt the US interest in Pakistan. We do not know whether at all there is any link between the United States of America and Pakistan's Rahim Yar Khan airport. But is there anything that you have picked up in while you were doing your assessment as to whether at all any US interest, or for that matter Chinese interest, have also been hurt by the Indians?
Please excuse me, now I have to ask you to specify what do you mean with interest. If you mean interest in general, at a strategic level, then these interests have been heavily hit. But if you mean citizens of USA or China, and none that I know, there are rumors about at least 2 Turkish military instructors they were UAV pilots or teaching Pakistanis how to operate Turkish UAVs, and they seem to have been killed. But I do not know about any US or Chinese military personnel or intelligence personnel being killed or wounded during Indian airstrikes or actually missile strikes on Pakistan. But in terms of interest, when you're talking about interest, this means for me that, for example, the government in Washington or the government in Beijing has specific interest in Pakistan, and they both do. And these interests have been heavily hit. There's no denial about this. Why? Because Pakistani Air Force, Pakistani air defense system was badly damaged, largely disabled. This has exposed Pakistani nuclear storage facilities to strikes by Indian Air Force. This has exposed, multiple headquarters, military headquarters. This has weakened the Pakistani armed forces significantly and durably. And therefore, this is not in interests of Washington or Beijing. Therefore, yes, their interests have been hit. Just their citizens, as far as I know, none.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, for joining us and sharing your assessment on the situation.
Thank you.
Well, Operation Sindoor was a message that was etched in the fire across Pakistan's forward bases. From terror camps that was reduced to rubble to airfields torn apart. That too by the precision strikes that were carried out, including the firepower that we've essentially demonstrated. The Pakistanis have been left completely rattled, unable to carry on with the reconstruction work. But despite that, what we have essentially seen is that the United States of America has now come to the rescue of the Pakistanis, and how the table is essentially turning at this point in time. Interesting times ahead, something that we are going to track very closely. Well, that's all that we could pack in this edition of the long form story. We'll be back next weekend with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching.